So what if hell was just a metaphor for fear? Hey guys, it's John sitting here in my studio with my fabulous mug of coffee. What if hell is not a place you go? Churches will tell you it is a pit of torment that has 9 layers, and there's demons and devils and fire and brimstone and all these things that came about in the Dante's Inferno in the 1300s, and then now they're telling you it was biblical, but it's not. But what if? And this is just an exploration of an idea, not really anything that's listed anywhere. But I just wanted to talk about this because what if hell really is just fear? What if it isn't a place you go, but a feeling you live in when fear rules your life? There is no mention of hell in the early Hebrew Bible. Gehenna was a valley, the valley of Hinnom, which there's stories of child massacre there, and there's stories of being a trash pit where things were burned later. So the early churches started using this as a tool of control. Do what we say or you're going to burn forever. In the Bible, one of the things that Jeshua says repeatedly is fear not. It was one of his most repeated phrases. Love casts out fear. Hell is what love removes. So if hell is just fear itself, and you break this down to the paradigm of love and fear, a hellish experience would be an experience that we live when we have fear running through our minds. When we live into that fearful idea that we could be judged or burn in hell because of doing something wrong, or the fact that the world will literally say, these are the rules you must follow, and if I don't follow these rules, I'm going to burn in hell. That is simply a fear-promoting tool. But that fire and brimstone that they talk about, fear is the furnace that stokes that fire. Fear is the flaming cauldron of horrible outcome of fear. In the modern world, we have internal suffering, as a lot of people call it, a hell, right? Shame, guilt, anxiety, it's a burning within. It's that fire that's telling us that we're not worthy, that's telling us that we have done wrong, and is telling us that we are unworthy of a loving God, or being part of a loving God, or experiencing a loving God. I have done thousands of private sessions, and I cannot tell you how many people are living in a fear-based religion concept. Their subconscious mind is filled with these ideas that hell is going to take over their lives. When you look at near-death experiences, there's always a small number that actually experience hell in their near-death experience. But what's so interesting to me about that idea is that the ones who experience it are the ones who not only believe in it, but believe they deserved it. And so they have that experience when they cross over. I firmly believe when you look at a near-death experiencer, what they're experiencing is a transition through their belief. Because the ones who have the longest near-death experiences come back without religion. They come back without this concept of hell. They come back with this idea that, on the other side, there is no religion. This idea of fear and anxiety that's perpetuated by religion as a punishment, it's the result of them getting you to forget who you really are. You are divine. You are one with God. Ye are gods, right there in their own book. And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Coffee Time with John. This channel runs off coffee, so get your coffee and tea at johnsjoe.com. So how do we climb out of this hell? Of our own fear, of our own anxiety, of our own stresses? How do we climb out of it? Well, first of all, you have to realize that the first thing you have to realize is that judgment has to come from somewhere. So understand that if you are worried about judgment, that means something external is judging you. And replace that concept of judgment with the idea of I am divine, and I can be curious about my experiences of life, or or be joyful about my experience of life, or I can feel that my conscience telling me that what I just did was wrong or right, but you're not going to be judged for it on the other side, because the other side is pure love. That's what the near-death experiencers all came back with, is the purity of love. The one thing that's really common is they say that you can't describe it because it's undescribable, the purity of love. Neil Donald Walsh talks about the idea of it not being unconditional love, but it being pure love. And that's exactly what my experience was. You can't describe it. It is indescribable. Words are imperfect. But the way you come back to that place, the way you get out of that hell of your own mind, is to start practicing being firmly present. The fear is always rooted in the past or the future, but it's not in the present moment. The only moment you're conscious, the only moment you have thought, word, and deed, the only moment you can do anything in this present moment, it's just an emotional reaction. Just get very present, get very fearless. And what happens when you get fearless? First thing that happens when you get fearless is you exhale. You release the fear, you release the anxiety, you release the stress. When you're laughing, you're not thinking about the judgment or your worthiness. You're literally thinking about the idea that, you're just here now and having this moment. You're not thinking about that. You're just being firmly present, and you're releasing all the air in your body by laughing. You're letting it all out. You know, come back to that place of self-love and understand that, if you're part of God, which the Bible says, if you're part of God, ask yourself a simple question. What part of God is not worthy? And once you ask yourself that question, the concept of hell is moot, because you are worthy. You are in this world an expression of God, and you're worthy. And so take yourself every day and put yourself into a state of love. I sit in love because I love it, right? But it's a great way of rebooting your morning and rebooting your day after you're done, right? When I sit in love, hell, the concept of the stimulus of the world that people define as hell goes away. It's gone. It's no longer a part of my experience of life. You know, you were not born in sin. You were born in light. You came out of the darkness into the light, and hell is optional. Not all people believe in hell. And the optional hell that's pressed upon people comes from religion and the mind of man. Well, you get to choose love and leave fear behind. You get to choose to be the expression of God on earth. You get to choose to be the light. And what did Joshua say? You are the light of the world. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.